Are you feeling stuck? If so, this is your exclusive invite to Vortex Yoga Retreat in Sedona, Arizona, this October 11th through 14th, 2024. Sedona's breathtaking red rocks transform into a fiery masterpiece in the autumn. Imagine practicing yoga amidst this stunning backdrop, feeling the ancient vortexes amplify your intentions and awaken your spirit. This retreat is for you if you crave a deeper connection with your energetic body, the chakras, you're ready to align your life with purpose and passion, or you seek a transformational experience to unleash your inner power. Here's what awaits you. 4 days and 3 nights nestled in Sedona's beauty, daily yoga and meditation, delicious local dinners, sound healing, hiking to infamous Sedona vortexes, connection with like-minded souls on this empowering journey, learn chakra balancing principles and practices, and a special gift from your hosts. Don't wait. Space is extremely limited and spots are going fast. Visit rechakaretreats.com/Sedona to book your spot and choose your accommodations, or click the link in the show notes. Use code MYYT for 10% off. Are you ready to balance your energy and align your life? Hey yogis, MAKENZIE Fly here, mom, yogapreneur, teacher trainer, retreat leader, and your guide to master your yoga teaching. This podcast is your weekly dose of actionable wisdom and candid chats with industry experts. Learn to connect deeper, weave yogic magic, and lead by example. Full disclosure, I'm still mastering it too, but together we'll skyrocket your impact and income. Hit subscribe and let's grow, one episode at a time. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to MYYT, where you are learning to level up your yoga teaching one masterful class at a time. This is a bonus episode, the first here on the pod. I couldn't help but give you a retreat recap. I'm currently sitting here in my room. It's the last day, and our participants are packing up and are preparing to catch the transportation to the airport and head home. And I just couldn't be bothered with a video. The room is a complete mess. My hair is a disaster piled on top of my head. So I wanted to give you just a real, raw, authentic, voice note on how the experience has been. And I'm just sitting here feeling like my cup is so full and just so grateful that this is my life, and feeling so inspired and recharged and pumped to just head back home. But I wanted to tell you a little bit about how the whole experience has been, how it was traveling with Finn, my 5-month-old baby, the resort that we're staying at here in Tulum, Mexico. I wanted to share a little bit about our participants and the women that came on the retreat, as well as the most memorable experiences that happened over our 8-day stay here. And depending on how long I ramble with all of this, I have a participant who came on and she did a recording, almost, I guess it is an interview, on how her experience has been and what it's like from the participant perspective, so that you can just get a real idea of what a retreat is like if you've never been on a yoga retreat. And if you've been thinking about going on a retreat yourself, it might give you the answers, or that little nudge of like, okay, yes, I think I'm ready for something like this. So like I said, depending on how long I go with my retreat recap, that might be in this episode, or maybe it'll be its own standalone bonus episode for you. But lots to share. I mean, this week has just been absolutely amazing. Exceeded all expectations, and that seems to happen every time. I mean, you never know as a retreat facilitator and retreat host how it's going to go, especially when the participants you don't know. You too are kind of going in with that little bit of nerves and excitement, like, okay, I hope all the participants are nice, and I hope they're down to try new things, and I hope they're open to new experiences. And it's always nice to be on the other end being like, that was a really incredible experience for myself, and I'm hearing from the participants as well that it was really great. So lots to share. Let's start with how it was traveling with baby Finn. To be very honest with you, I wouldn't use the word anxious, but I would say apprehensive. I was apprehensive of what it would be like traveling with a baby, mainly because all of the stuff, the baggage, right? The luggage. So I had a humongous 50-pound suitcase that had all of my stuff and all of Finn's clothes, his diapers, things like that. But then I also had his diaper bag that's basically a backpack, and then a travel stroller that I spent hours researching with my sweet mom, Mama Fly, Miss Linda. And I had no idea that strollers can be so expensive, especially travel strollers. We were like, oh man, that one's amazing. You can open and close it with one hand. We want that one. And then we click the link and it'd be like $800. And we're like, oh, okay, back to the drawing board. Let's find something else. But I did find a really great one that weighs only 10 pounds that you could open and close with one hand. So I had that as well. So far we're in three things: the suitcase, the diaper bag, backpack, the travel stroller. And then I also needed to bring the car seat. So there's this bag that's basically a glorified trash bag with straps on it so you can put the car seat on your back. And inside that, I think it's called a gorilla bag. Inside that, I also stuffed his DockATot, which is basically this infant pillow that's got bumpers on the side so he can't roll. So I had all this stuff, and I'm nervous mostly about that part. And I was thinking, gosh, that moment of like when I'm actually boarding the plane and I need to put something in the overhead cartridge, overhead bin, where do I put my baby? Like, what is that moment going to be like? And so I'm thinking about this, and I'm stressing about this, and I'm thinking, I really wish my husband Colin was able to come, which initially he was meant to come. And then a couple of work things popped up, so he had to stay home. And so I'm thinking, gosh, this would be so much easier if I just had him. Like, what am I going to do? Do I have to just ask people for help? And that's exactly what I had to do. And I think that theme carried through the whole week, which I'll get into a little bit more later. But I had to start asking for help. And I say that because I think it's a nice reminder for all people, but definitely moms, and even yoga teachers, right? Like, we don't have to pretend like we've done this before. We don't have to pretend to know all the answers or have it all figured out. And just remember that you can always ask for help. And when you do, in my experience, what I've found is people are delighted to help. People are like, of course, I would love to hold your baby, or let me take this for you and put it up on the top. And so I think we just tell ourselves all too often that we need to look perfect, act perfect, be perfect. And it's so much easier to just say, hey, can you give me a hand? And that's what I found on the way here, is that people were so lovely in helping me make it on our first international flight. So all of his supplies were a bit of a challenge, but we did it. We managed. And then there's two places that you can fly into to get to Tulum. There's Cancun, and then there's the new airport of Tulum, which was super nice. It had a vibe, like a jungle vibe, right when you landed. And I think it had opened in December, and we flew in just now in April. So it was brand spanking new. Everything looked really clean. The bathrooms were nice. And it's so much closer to obviously to Tulum. I think if you land in Cancun, you still have about a 2.5 hour drive. But Tulum Airport, it was only about a 40-minute trek, I believe. So if you are going to a yoga retreat ever in Tulum, 100% recommend flying into the Tulum Airport. It's really nice and it's much closer. And with baby Finn, something that I didn't really expect, and it just made me realize that I guess I really haven't gone out of the house that much with him yet, as he's still only 5.5 months old. But you get so much more attention with the baby. And I guess it's similar when you get a dog, that it's almost like a conversation point, right? For you to have chit chats with other people. They'll come up and ask you like, oh, what kind of dog do you have? It's kind of the same with a baby. Like people will come up and say, how old is he? Or, oh, how cute is he? So I became aware that I felt like a lot of people were looking over at me because Finn is just so dang cute. And I wasn't expecting that. And on the flip side of that, sometimes it's a little unwelcomed, where some people will come up, and I don't think it comes from a malicious place and people aren't really aware that for a first-time mom that you might be thinking that, but I'm like, oh, you're a stranger, like please don't touch my baby. I don't quite know you. This is making me uncomfortable. So I had a few moments like that too, where I'm like thinking to myself, okay, you can touch the feet, I guess, since you're doing it already. And I don't want to be rude and say, stop touching. But if they were to reach out and like touch his face or his hands, how uncomfortable that made me feel. And I guess I wasn't anticipating having those kinds of feelings. Then another thing that came up for me was the fear. It's almost like an intrusive thought kind of fear of someone taking my child. The realities of trafficking and how terrifying that is, how scary it would be for that to happen, and how much more vigilant you have to be, how much more aware you have to be. The worry of a mother is always there. It's just changing depending on what your child is like. And some other mom had mentioned that to me, especially when I was pregnant. Having had a couple of miscarriages, I often expressed how anxious I was in the first trimester because of having experienced loss. And a mom kind of said to me, or I had said something to the effect of, I think I'll feel so much better once I make it out of the first trimester, that anxiety will go away. And another mom was kind of like, no, it actually never really goes away. It just changes. You're always worried about your child. You're always fearful about something happening to your child. It just shifts as they grow and change. And so I had that moment where I was like, wow, I'm traveling with him. I need to be very cognizant and aware. And that's a very sad thing that happens in our world. And I'm praying for my child and your child, if you have one, if you're listening, that we never have to face that. Shalane and I, my business partner for Rechaka Retreats, she's the co-facilitator and co-host. It was a very different experience for us as facilitators. This was the first time that we brought our families, me bringing Finn, my baby, and her bringing her two children who are older. Ava, her daughter, is about, I think, almost 15, and her son, Rafe, is around 11. And so I was chatting with her about just this fear of someone taking your child. And she's like, oh yeah, that's a very real fear. So Shalane and I were talking about that. And then we were also mentioning just how different the retreat experience feels now that we have our families with us. Usually when we do not have our families, she and I share a room. And so it feels like we spend a lot of time with one another. And naturally, we end up talking about how the retreat is going from our perspective. We're kind of giving one another feedback, saying, hey, you did that really well, or I thought this could be a little smoother. Next time, let's try this. And so we didn't really have a lot of that in real time on this retreat because we had our own rooms with our own families. And during the downtime, we were hanging out with our own families. So it was definitely changed the experience. I wouldn't say it was better or worse. It was just different. My 5-month-old is now an international traveler, and I would say he's a rock star, a trooper at it. And I'm so glad that he is getting this experience and exposure so young. The resort, we are staying at Amansala, and I believe on the website they call themselves like a yoga chic resort, and it is 1000% that. It is so nice. The decor kind of looks like eco chic, which is what they call themselves, but it's like lots of tan sand colors with driftwood, and then all of the metal on like the window seals, the door frames is like this black steel. So really nice color palette. And then of course it feels like it's tucked into the actual jungle, like looking out your windows. It's just this dense greenery and foliage. And some of the rooms, quite literally, you open the door and you have this incredible view of just the beach and the ocean. So we have our own private personal beach. You could throw a rock and hit the waves. It is so nice, you guys. So definitely recommend this place. It's beautiful. If you are a yoga teacher thinking about a location to go, it's really, really nice. There were a couple of surprises when we got here, and I think this really is common of Mexico and Costa Rica. Shalane and I didn't notice this, so I want to mention it. The air conditioning is actually an additional charge during the day. At night, it comes on, the air conditioning comes on, I think from like 9 p.m. maybe to 9 a.m., but it is, of course, humid and hot. And when you're in a room that doesn't have a fan or circulation, it can get quite stuffy. So for me with a 5-month-old baby, and I'm trying to be aware of him making too much noise or bothering my neighbors, I had to bite the bullet and add on the extra charge of air conditioning during the day. And it's $25 a day for the aircon to come on. But depending on you and your comfortability level, it might be well worth the charge. So it definitely changed the experience adding that. It made it really comfortable. The food here was phenomenal, which Shalane had a friend, or I guess another yoga teacher and trainer facilitator, reach out to her and tell her, hey, just a heads up, the food at Amansala isn't very good. So we were kind of walking in thinking, okay, we'll see how this goes. Like, apparently it's really bland and not great. But we actually had a very different experience. I thought all the food was really fresh, locally sourced, nutritious, and delicious. However, I will say that the proportions were small. They run this thing called Bikini Boot Camp, and we were joking with each other, like, do they think that we're on the Bikini Boot Camp retreat? Because it seems like they're portion controlling us. And this became really apparent one dinner. There was a dessert of this like delicious vegan mousse. And all of us were commenting on how delicious it was. But the bowl was like one of those tiny little itty bitty like mason jars with maybe 2 or 3 spoonfuls in there. So we're talking about how delicious it is. And then you can just hear the whole table like clink, 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 like trying to scrape every last little droplet of this mousse out of here. And we're like, okay, can I have another one? Or like, can you bring 5 more of these? Because I want a lot more. And so we're joking that maybe they think that we're in the Bikini Boot Camp. Like, I didn't come here to lose weight. I wanted to put on weight on my yoga vacation. But people were even saying, some of our participants at the end of the week were like, I actually feel like I have lost weight, and that the food was really nourishing. And even if it wasn't like these huge proportions that maybe we're used to in America, that they always left really fulfilled. Like they had their fill. They never were too hungry. But that was a cute little moment, just the little clink, clink, clinks of everybody's spoons trying to scrape the sides of the tiny little bowls. I was like, I'm not above it. I might, actually lick the inside of this because it was so delicious. Amansala also is really great at offering a ton of other excursions. That was a cool thing provided by the resort. It's just these other activities that you can add on as an extra. So they do things like ice bath on the beach, sound bowl ceremony with cacao, the Mayan clay that you could apply on the beach and sunbathe and let the Mayan clay kind of soak into your skin. There was also tours of the grand cenotes, the mangroves, the Mayan ruins. So if you wanted to elevate your retreat experience, you could always add those in, and they were facilitated by the actual resort. So as a host, it was kind of nice because you could offer these extra things to your participants, and you could also participate in them as a host and feel like you were getting somewhat of a excursion or adventure that you weren't in charge of, which was really nice. And a lot of our people took advantage of those, which was really cool. Our participants, the people that came on this retreat, I mentioned it a little bit in the intro last week, but something about the messaging or the marketing of this retreat attracted solely women. All we had on this retreat was women, which is not usual of a Rechaka retreat. It just so happened to be, it was women that came. And I think why that happened is because the retreat is called Recharge. And the whole aim and purpose of it was to recharge your battery, refill your tank, just bring some energy back into your life. And kind of like what I was talking about in the beginning with traveling with Finn, as women, we think we need to have it all figured out. we also are caregivers and sometimes overgivers. That we as women, as mothers, as boss babe business women are thinking all the time about what needs to be done, how to do it. We're taking care of everybody else often, and we forget to take care of ourselves. And so that was the type of person that was drawn to this retreat experience, as someone who's looking at our website and thinking, oh, I really need a recharge. I need to withdraw from the world, give myself some major me time, and fill my cup. So it was all women. And they came into the experience, even on the very first night, the opening ceremony, they came in saying things like, I just feel like I've been going too fast for too long and going too hard, and I'm just exhausted. And I think I already mentioned this in the intro as well. When you're really, really exhausted, you are emotional. And so even in that very first opening circle, people were sharing their names and sharing something that feels heavy. And there were tears coming up really, really quickly because everybody just felt so depleted, so exhausted that it makes you emotional. When you're tired, you're emotional. So they were saying things like, I'm sorry, I don't know where this emotion is coming from, or, oh my gosh, I didn't expect to cry. And so it was a beautiful thing because almost everybody was kind of at that place, at that breaking point, that it made for, everybody felt like they were in the right place because they're all kind of experiencing similar things. And so as retreat hosts and participants, Shalane and I, we really, really wait for that first day. We're so excited to see who comes in. And there's this sense and feeling of excitement. Everybody's really excited that it's finally here, but there's also a bit of nervousness because a lot of the women, they don't necessarily practice yoga every day, or they've never done yoga before. We've also had that happen quite a bit. Some of the participants have never traveled alone. Some people have never met anyone else that is attending, like they're going in completely solo. Some people have actually never really been out of the country. So there's all of these new things. And so, yes, they're excited, but they're also nervous because they're doing something that is stepping outside of their comfort zone. But they're so raw. They know somewhere deep inside that what they're doing is not working because they feel so tired. And we even talked about this in one of the classes, that you can't keep doing the same thing and expect a different result. What is that? Isn't that the definition of insanity somewhere? It's lunacy to keep doing the same thing and think that you're going to get something else. And so this was the something else for these women, is that they decided, no, I can't keep catering to everybody else all the time. I need to do something for myself. And so even though they're nervous, they're also excited. And I just wanted to acknowledge that because I think it takes a very special type of person. It takes a lot of courage to get to that place. Some of the most memorable experiences for me, it's hard to pick one, but the sweat lodge experience was super sacred. It's hard to even really describe the energy that goes on in that. So we all, it was almost every single one of our participants except two, participated in this excursion of a Mayan sweat lodge. And I'm just wondering, would you have the courage to do this? So imagine this, you are standing outside of this almost like hut looking thing. And this Mayan woman who's very wizened, she is older, and you can tell that she actually told us she's been doing this for like 35 years or something crazy. She has this energy about her that is just, I don't know, just wise. I can't think of any other word than just wise. Like she has a sense. She's getting us in this circle and she hands us three things, a handful of spices. I can't remember exactly what was in this bundle of spices, but I know for sure there was like cinnamon bark. I think there might have been like rice and corn, a couple of other things. And then she hands us a medicinal plant bundle that smelled so good. And it's pretty thick. Like when you're holding this bundle, your whole hand wraps around it. So it's really large. And then she also hands us an instrument. So we've got these three things. And we're told to bring to mind our intention for the ceremony. And once we bring that intention to our mind, then we take the handful of spices and throw it into this big fire where there's these giant, I guess like lava stones heating. And it's so hot. If you're standing like, I don't even know, maybe 5 feet away, it feels hot from there. So it's tons of heat emanating from these stones. So that's the first thing that we did, is we received all of these things. We brought the intention to mind, and then we say our intention to ourselves and throw the handful of spices into the fire. And after that, we were welcomed into the actual hut, which is the sweat lodge. And so she's got this kind of smoke thing. So it's probably like a sage bundle. She's giving us this smoke bath to purify our energetic body before we enter the sweat lodge. And it's kind of smaller than I thought. And that was one thing that they mentioned to us, that if you struggle with claustrophobia, then this experience might not be for you, because there's about 15 of us in there, and we are sitting in a circle, knee to knee, so you can feel each other. It's small. It's a small space. Once we were inside and we're all sitting next to each other, the door of the sweat lodge, it's still open, and an assistant is bringing in these gigantic lava stones that are so hot, and he's bringing them in one at a time. And once, I think about maybe like seven stones were laid in the center, they close the door of the sweat lodge, and the sweat lodge gets pitch black. Like, I'm talking, if you were to lift up your hand 2 feet in front of your face, you couldn't see because it was that dark. And the guide that's in the sweat lodge with us, the woman, she takes this water, like buckets of water, and starts throwing them on the hot rocks so that the sweat lodge starts to fill with this smoke. It's like the best steam room you've ever been in. And we're instructed to take the plant bundles and start hitting our body with the medicinal plants. And she's kind of telling us things to say. She's singing a couple of songs in Spanish, and we're doing our best to repeat them. And we just are told to keep like beating the body with the medicinal plant roll, because it will help. She said so many benefits that come from it, but the one that I can remember is it helps something about like negative ions, the same that happens when you go to the ocean, that those negative ions kind of cleanse your energy body. And maybe help with like electromagnetic frequencies, and bring your body back into that sort of balance. So anyway, the small hut is filling with steam, so much steam. We're hitting ourselves with the plant bundles. We're repeating her with our best attempt at Spanish. And then she's passing around, at one point she passes around this bowl that's filled with honey. And we're told to take honey and start to lather it onto our skin. And at first I'm thinking, ew. To be honest, I'm like, oh, it's sticky. I don't really like this. But within a couple of minutes, it was incredible because of the steam. It was like my skin like drank up the honey so fast, and it went from being sticky to like the most smooth ever. And the bowl came back around a second time, and I was glad, because I was like, okay, now I understand. I took it and like lathered it all over my neck and my chest and my face and my belly, because it just felt so good, and my skin was drinking it up, and it felt so hydrating. Then the part that took the most courage was she had us sing a song in the clear by ourselves. And so she gave a couple of rules before. She said, you have to do something by yourself, preferably sing a song, but if you don't want to sing, you can also say a prayer. We had to do it all by ourselves, like you couldn't pass. And so she said we also couldn't laugh at each other. And so you could just feel, even though it's like pitch black in there, you could feel that people were somewhat like nervous, and they had this like little quiver in their voice. Some people sang, but some people prayed, but everybody had to go by themselves. And I just thought that this was such a edgy thing to make people do, because using your voice can be scary. It takes so much vulnerability to make noise, to let yourself be heard. And so it was touching to witness, even in the dark, to hear one by one all of our participants go. And each person kind of expressed how much it pushed them out of their comfort zone. But because of being in that environment, that small space, the hot temperature, the pitch black, they felt like it was a sacred and safe space for them to do something that was scary. And they knew that in that unknown, that's like the secret recipe. You have to start doing something different. That's the secret of transformation, is you have to do things that you've never done to get things that you've never had. And it was just such a profound experience that really brought all of our participants together. And that was by far an unforgettable experience that I know that they'll be talking about for years to come. So that absolutely stood out to me and was something that I'd never done before. Another memorable moment for me was the offsite dinner. And we always do this on a Rechaka retreat, is go to instead of eating every single meal at the resort, at the place that we're staying, is we schedule a time to go off the resort property into the town at a restaurant. And we do this because we want to boost the local economy. And so here we chose a place called Gitano. I don't exactly know what type of food it was, but oh my gosh, it was delicious. And it was a set menu. So that's another thing that's so nice about retreats, is not needing to think about food. That the menu is all planned out for you, and all you have to do is show up and eat it. You don't have to plan and prep it before. You don't have to clean up after. I think personally that's my favorite part. And so anyway, this restaurant was delicious. It was like a 4-course meal. We all had our fill, and it was tapas style. So we're passing around plates and sharing and saying to each other, oh my God, have you tried this? Got to go to the bar, get a couple of drinks, and just see everybody dressed up in nice clothes as opposed to being in yoga clothes. The vibe there was also unique in the sense that, like the Amansala Resort, it's tucked in the jungle and has this like lush greenery. They also, no lie, had this giant disco ball, a couple of them spread throughout the place. So it was like jungle disco vibes, and I was here for it. I loved it. So absolutely recommend, if you're in Tulum, to check out Gitano. It was delicious, and it did not disappoint. And our participants were saying how fun it is to have a balance of both the feeling of work hard and also play hard. And that was another kind of message that we really threaded throughout the whole experience, is that when it comes to recharging your energy, that there's a couple shifts you have to make. It's no longer about managing your time, but it's learning how to manage your energy. And according to the yogis, they call energy prana. Prana is the life force. Prana is the electrical current of the universe. And so if you feel like your energetic tank is low, you need to do things that bring in prana. And so to bring in prana, the first thing that you need to do is stretch beyond your ordinary limits. You need to get out of your comfort zone. And so we brought that to more of an experiential understanding, not just this theoretical conversation, but we experienced that by going to the sweat lodge, by doing something that felt really, really intense, that felt really uncomfortable. And that brings in, those types of experiences bring in prana. And you also need to continue growing in your capacity for prana and energy. You need to balance both periods of expenditure, working really hard, with periods of renewal. And so we brought that home. We landed that plane by having yoga classes in the morning, doing all the wellness things in the morning, but then having fun at night and like letting our hair down, putting on a really cute dress, putting on some lipstick, going out and just laughing with your girlfriends, having a good time. And we continued to talk the rest of the week about, it's not just this balance of both, effort and rest, but you need to have this sense of rhythm in your life. You need to have this sense of rituals in your life. And so how we brought that home is by doing the closing ceremony, which was just last night. And it was so beautiful. We had all of our participants wear white, what we called goddess outfits. And we sat down and we did a couple of journal prompts and walked them through a couple of things that you could do, rituals that you could do that just help you reconnect with yourself. And opened a sharing circle from that and said, okay, what are some of the rituals, these practices that you've gained from being here on the retreat? What are some of those that have worked for you while you're here? can you bring them home into your life? Can you imagine yourself being at home, feeling like you are going? And the first step is becoming more aware of that. Like, hey, I might be going too fast, too hard, too long again. I'm getting tired. Do I have some more things in my spiritual toolbox now to help me replenish my own battery? Because that's what it's really about, is we want to empower you so that you can be your own healer. You can be your own teacher and do these things to yourself. And so everybody's kind of going around and sharing like what it is that they really took away from the retreat and also what they're leaving behind, because that's important. It's putting stuff down to create more space to pick up healthier habits. And so we didn't want to end on a sad note because there'd been tons of emotional releases throughout the week, but we wanted to end on an up note. And so we had this beautiful dance party and everybody's in their beautiful dress. We're just dancing around, and it was so good to just see some of these women like be in their bodies again and move without worry or fear. It was such a magic thing to witness. And then, because we all looked so beautiful, we went down to the beach and got a ton of pictures to just really seal in all the memories. It was so fun, followed by an incredible dinner. Everybody's just like laughing and having a great time. And so I honestly, like I started, I just can't believe that this is my life. I can't believe that this is my work. And I'm so grateful to be in the position that I am. And thank you to everybody who was on the retreat that's listening to this. And if you are considering going on a retreat with Rechaka, I want you to reach out and let me know. I'd love to answer any of your questions. At the time of this recording, we are going to Sedona in the fall of 2024. But if you're listening to this another year, we aim to do 2 retreats every year. So just reach out and I'll point you in the direction as to find more information for that. I think there's enough time within this recording to hear from our retreat participants. So I want to dive in and so that you can hear what it's like from one of the retreat goers. Forget the overwhelm of tech tools and expensive software. I'm here to introduce you to FG Funnels, the game changer that transformed my yoga teaching career. What is FG Funnels? A female-owned and operated all-in-one platform that lets you build beautiful landing pages and sales funnels to attract new students and sell your offerings like workshops, retreats, or online courses. Create captivating email sequences to nurture leads and convert them into loyal yogis. Track your results with detailed analytics to see what's working and what's not. I truly believe in FG Funnels, and my experience with FG Funnels has been nothing short of amazing. My student base has doubled since I started using it. My income has grown significantly thanks to efficient sales funnels. I save countless hours thanks to automation and easy management. And best of all, I feel more connected to my students through personalized communication. Ready to experience FG Funnels magic for yourself? Click the link in the show notes to get started and save money by becoming a founding member. Don't wait. Invest in your yoga business and watch it blossom with FG Funnels. Happy marketing. Hello, Brooklyn. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I'm so glad that you're here.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, we are still here in Tulum. We are hours away. Well, I guess you are hours away from catching your transportation back to the airport to head home. But I wanted to catch you before you left while the retreat experience is really fresh and just hear a little bit about how it's been from your perspective.
Yeah. Making me sad that it's hours away.
I know.
Not ready
it went
for
fast.
it. Yes.
Yeah. So I thought a nice place to start would be to just let everybody know how we connected. I feel like we have a fun story as far as how you found me and Rechaka. Tell everybody a little bit about how that came to be.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I have been in the IT field for years, and we have our big annual sales kickoff every year in Vegas. And I happened to be there for work I guess it was January. And even though we have long days, I knew that I needed something special in the mornings to get me going. So I attended 7 a.m. yoga class at the Aria where we were all staying. and happened to stumble across you there. And I loved your class. I loved your spirit. And afterwards, you were like, hey, I've got this retreat. Would you want to come? And I'm like, well, there's no way I'm going to just randomly go on this 8-day retreat out of the country. But sure enough, weeks later, I found myself completely signed up and ready to go. So I just thought that was a fun little meet cute that we had.
It was. I love that you called it a meet cute. We had been saying when we first, I think it was probably the first night, and everybody's kind of sharing their story of how they came to decide to do the retreat. And you were really the only person that was outside of that inner circle of the Vegas yogis, which just made you in
Yeah.
particular, it made it really special for me personally, because you always extend the invite. That's kind of all you can do is invite people. And it takes the other side to accept the invitation. So I'm really grateful that you did.
Yeah, me too. And wasn't it, you just shared with me on this trip, like one of your first classes back to teaching?
Yes, after having my baby.
Yeah, so special.
Yeah, it really, really was. So, will you, as much as you're comfortable with, will you share with everybody kind of what was going on in your life that made a yoga retreat really appealing? Why
Yeah.
did you say yes to the invitation, and what was going on that made you decide to say yes?
Yes. So I will be completely open with you. Hopefully, this story might resonate with maybe even just one of your listeners or multiple. But we all, I think, go through our own trauma in life. And I have really been in the thick of healing from my own trauma. So a year ago, I left a domestic violence marriage. And it's been really hard. I thought leaving would be the hardest part, but it turns out the leaving was just the first step. There's a lot of healing to be done. There's a lot of post separation abuse that comes along that I didn't know about. There's kids involved. So there's still a large aspect of control from my soon to be ex husband through the court system. There's multiple legal cases going on. It's very hard. So I have been struggling with my health as a result. I've learned through counseling and through multiple different doctors that have been saying it's going to take time and a lot of effort, typically around between 2 and 10 years is what they say for the healing process to really resonate. And so over the last year, I've tried everything. I've tried talk therapy. I've tried EMDR. I've done massages, chiropractic. I've been seeing a naturopath doctor and then a functional doctor. I've changed my diet, my exercising to a different type, more somatic versus hard workouts. And I've been a little bit frustrated because I want to heal in a week, not 2 to 10 years. So I realized, for me, my faith is what got me out of a situation that normally I don't think I would have ever had my eyes open enough or been brave enough to leave. But I felt a calling from God, and I listened to it, and I followed him, and he made a way for me. And it's just been incredible since. And I felt like this yoga retreat would be another next step to grow my spiritual practice and keep learning how to lean in and listen to God and lean into the positive aspects of this healing journey and make progress from there.
That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I know that it can be scary to be vulnerable and to share your story, but I do know that a lot of listeners will hear and see themselves in your story. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Was the retreat what you expected? Having kind of never been on a yoga retreat, what did you think it was going to be like? Was there any expectations?
Yeah, so I wasn't quite sure what it was going to be like. I thought, I'd show up and there would be all of these yogis that can do everything, and I'm just over here. I'm not a yoga expert by any means. And it turns out it was actually just a bunch of other women just like me, like looking for healing. And there was no sense of competition, who's better than who, or I need to be in the back of the room because I'm not some professional yogi. Like in my head, it was going to be something you would see on TV, maybe. But it turned out it was just a beautiful trip the very first night, almost everybody was in tears. We immediately became fast friends, and I wasn't coming here to make friends. But somehow accidentally I made a lot of new friends and sisters. And so that was a fun surprise for me. It was different than I thought.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear it. It's always something that you can't necessarily control as a facilitator or as a leader. You, of course, have this aim and have this hope that you can create something that's really meaningful for people, but you can't force that. And so to hear from your perspective that it was not necessarily what you expected in terms of like the competition or feeling like you needed to be this yoga expert, but that you just felt welcomed and that you felt like you fit in because it's a whole bunch of other people who are kind of experiencing what you're experiencing. So I'm really glad to hear that.
Yeah, it was beautiful because I've found that I feel more comfortable with other people who are, going through either the same thing as me or their own type of trauma. And the very first night, we were in tears because I found out that the woman sitting next to me has lost her son in the last year. There are some really, really, rough things that a lot of the women around me were working through. And I don't wish that upon anybody, but it's almost like, this isn't not the right saying, but like misery loves company, but you know what I mean? Like it's comforting to be around other people who just understand the grief and the sadness that we hold and that we want to work through.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so then if the retreat, like the wordage, especially for the retreat that you came on, it's called Recharge. And the whole point was to recharge your batteries or fill up your cup, regain your energy. Do you feel like you got that? Like was the promise, was the solution, was the promise actually delivered?
1000%. Oh man, I'm already tearing up a little bit, but yeah, and I wasn't sure how it was going to be delivered, but my cup is so full. Before I go home today, I just can't believe how fast 8 days flew by. But for me specifically, my body it's been in like fight, flight, or freeze mode. So for me, I've been really in freeze mode for 10 years. And I have taken pictures throughout this whole trip, and you can see pictures of me these last few days. My inflammation, my stomach, like my whole core, my arms, like you can physically see a difference of my body just like exhaling, letting go of some of this extreme inflammation it's been holding on to. And the fact that you can see it physically like blows my mind. It's hard sometimes, right, to like quantify the emotional and mental progress throughout the week. But when you can actually see it in a physical way, it blows my mind.
Oh, I think I said to you, I don't know, maybe a couple nights ago, I was like, you are so joyful. I was just watching you kind of smile and laugh with some of the other participants. And you said, yeah, it's coming back. And that made my heart explode because I know what you've been through. And it's also hard to give yourself the permission to take 8 days for yourself, especially when you have young boys.
Yeah.
And so to some of the other just mothers out there who are listening, do you have a word of advice or encouragement for them? Like if they're kind of on the precipice of deciding to do something like this for themselves, do you have anything that you want to say to them?
Oh, absolutely. Because almost every single woman on this trip was a mom, and all with different styles. So we've had a ton of heart to hearts about things. You've got different styles of mom, but I think a lot of us tend to wear our, like, what would the right wording be? But you know how we just give, and we do everything for our kids, and we're the only one that can, like, you know, take care of them in this way, and we can't leave them. And I think a lot of us have that. We like feeling needed. We care so much for our kids that we think we can't take 8 days away. I had never done that for myself. So I think for the moms out there listening, to know that it's possible, no matter what kind of mom you are. We had stay-at-home moms here. We have working moms here. We have all different personality types of moms here. We have moms with grown children, moms with babies, yourself included.
Yes.
And so to see the cups be filled for all of us in different ways and what we all needed, it's not only possible, but I would say it's almost like necessary, because if you can't step away and take this time for yourself, you're really a different person. You're identifying as a mom. And when you come here on your own, you're away from your family, especially for enough days to really like exhale and let it soak in and do these experiences. Like, we went swimming in the cenote, and I had a Mayan massage where, I mean, you can't really get that in the United States. They like really spend a lot of time working through your gut and your core. Just these experiences that really go towards who we are, who we identify on our own, not just as the mom or the wife of the family or the, fill in the blank. This experience was for me, Brooklyn specifically. And that's hard to get.
Yeah. Yeah. There's two things in there that you said. You actually even just made the sound like, I feel like I haven't done something for myself that makes me go, which is actually what Rechaka, that's why we named it Rechaka Retreats, because Rechaka is the Sanskrit word for exhale. And it was me and Shalane, my co-facilitator, my partner. It was our aim and hope that the retreats would help people feel a full body exhale. That anytime you have a full body exhalations pave the way for relaxation. Like, it just feels like you mentioned, can let go of some of those things. So it's good to hear that it might be working.
Definitely working.
Yeah. And then the second thing that you kind of started to talk about and that I wanted to hear is, what has been your favorite experience out of some of the things that we did together, or any of the other excursions? Like you mentioned, the swimming in the Grand Cenote. Like, what's been the most unforgettable moment of that entire experience?
Oh, that's so hard, because I feel like I've had unforgettable moments every day, multiple of them. So it's hard to pick. Well, I think, for me, maybe this is because of who I am, my personality. My love language is quality time. So for me, it was less about each amazing thing that we did, but like the people I was doing it with. So having these experiences with who I would call sisters now. There's especially, everyone in the group, we all became so close, but there's really, a couple that truly feel like sisters, and just being together, whether it was swimming in the Grand Cenote, swimming in the ocean, getting knocked over by the waves, and having a guy that was on, what do you call those things that, like, with the parachute, and he was on a surfboard, like gliding through the water.
I don't know, but I like, I'm like, how did it get started on that?
I don't know. It looks really cool, but it was also a little bit scary. I was in the ocean, just like having a relaxing moment, and then he just whoosh, like went right past me, like a foot away. And so just like laughing until, laughing, crying, like just having the best time every day with some of these new sisters of mine was my favorite memory coming away from the trip.
So good to hear, because we often kind of say to our people that it does seem like the participants go from friends to family really fast, and it seems like everybody's like, yeah, okay. Like, it's kind of hard to believe, but you're saying that it really did feel like that.
Oh, 1000%, 1000%. And it felt to me like that in the first 24 hours. And so I was kind of shocked at how even deeper it got every single day. You
Mhm.
know, there's some women here that we've worked through things together that we haven't talked to anyone else about. It's just this trip just opened up the chance to do that, and the chance for us to really work on ourselves and work through our stuff, and just hold each other and be there for each other. Different people had kind of different breakthroughs in different times, which was really beautiful, because some of us could be supportive for someone as they're really having a breakthrough, and just needing to feel the hands of other people, the energy, the love and support from other people. And it's like, it was kind of beautiful how it hit us at different times, so that we could each support each other
Mhm.
throughout the week as things were
Yes.
happening. And I love something that you said during the handstand workshop. And you said, and I've thought about it every day. You said something along the lines of, to get out of our head, we got to get on our head. And that day, I really did. I mean, we did handstands and headstands, and just, it blew my mind. I did more than I thought I could. But I loved that saying. Did I capture that right? What did you say?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something about headstands in particular and inversions, they're a beautiful medicine for people who are prone to depression or overthinking. And as you mentioned, being a mom who's constantly giving, sometimes over giving, we have this tendency to constantly be thinking about what needs to happen for our family, for ourselves. And so it's a beautiful prescription to try to be upside down, because it requires all of your focus to go upside down. You can't think of anything else, or else you'll lose your balance. And that can be said about yoga at large, not just necessarily inversions, but yeah, it can be real medicine.
It really can be. And for my, like, specifically for my case, you know, when you leave years of being trauma bonded to someone, and there's a lot of things that you go through. One of them is called cognitive dissonance, and it's where you really don't know up from down. You're confused. You know, you're thinking, did that really happen? Was it really that bad? It's kind of sad how it works. And you kind of doubt yourself. And this is why most women go back an average of 7 times to their abuser before they actually leave and stay gone. But for me, that cognitive dissonance has been something I've been working through all year. And I found, like, how funny when I use the example of not knowing up from down. It's like, well, when I'm in the headstand, like you said, their up and down is completely changed. What is up? What is down? And you're just focusing on it. And I just saw, like, a beautiful, I don't know, tie between the two, that it's like, I want clarity. I don't want to live in that confusing world in my head. And that handstand workshop and some of the words that you said and the teachings that you've said along the week have really helped.
Brooklyn, thank you. That means a lot to me. So thank you for letting me know that it's landed, and that also that people are listening. Like I mentioned before, you can put it out there, but you always don't know if people are either ready to receive it or that they actually capture it. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that it meant something to you, and I'm just passing along what my teachers have said to me too in the past. That all of this is things that I've learned, and it's a privilege to continue to share it. Another thing that you said that I really loved, even when I just ask you about your most memorable experience, it's interesting how, in some ways, yeah, there's these like standout moments that sound really impressive and that are only available in this unique travel environment of like being in Tulum, Mexico, and the Mayan culture. But it
Yeah.
seems like the thing that's really standing out is just those in between moments of just hanging out that can really only happen when you give yourself an ample and generous amount of time. It's like just that downtime that you're talking about that seemed to be really, really nourishing. Would you agree?
100%. And the downtime is part of what attracted me to this trip, because I thought, okay, I took a look at the, sample itinerary, and I was like, okay, I can totally do this with morning yoga, evening yoga, open day in between, I brought 5 books with me, Mackenzie. I brought 5 books thinking I'm going to have all this downtime for myself and I'm going to read all these books. I'm going to have a vision of what the rest of my life is going to be like. I'm going to be praying and have all but I almost had no alone time. I chose the in-between moments to be with, these sisters and, either just goofing off at the pool, playing in the ocean, taking walks, drinking a margarita beside the pool, maybe 2, snacks. I mean, I have not read a single one of those 5 books because those in-between moments were so great. I didn't even feel the need to be by myself and read 5 books.
Aw. But you could have if you,
I
love how you said that you chose to go out and be with your sisters and like be like, just, it almost feels like a kid again, hanging out at camp.
I did feel just like a kid. I just show up at, snack time, lunchtime, dinner. My food is there cooked for me. It was just like amazing. I can't remember the last time I experienced something like this. It probably literally was when I was a kid.
Aw. Oh, yes. I would argue that is the best part of a retreat, is not having to plan dinner, not having to cook and not having to clean afterwards. Oh man, it's such a treat.
Such a treat.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing what it's been like from your perspective. Do you think that it's in the cards or a possibility that you might come back for another retreat?
I will be back for another retreat. I can't wait to hear where the next ones are going to be, and I can't wait to sign up and hopefully see. I think quite a few of us will be back, and then sure we'll meet some new sisters and welcome them into the family as well.
Yes, or some brothers. It's not exclusive to women always.
that thought crept into my head, and I was like, I almost said brothers. But yeah, I thought it was unique that this trip was all women, because that's not always the case, right?
Yeah, no, not at all.
Yeah.
Well, and I think even when you come back for your company's convention in Las Vegas, that to speak to how it does feel like you actually have friends that are going to continue to be your friends even after this container of the retreat is closed. When you come back, you're definitely going to be reaching out on our group chat like, hey guys, I'm in Vegas and we're going to meet up somewhere.
Yeah. I've already gotten threats from some of the girls. Like, if you come to Vegas and don't reach out, we're going to be so mad at you.
Yeah. Well, Brooklyn, thank you so much for taking the time. I know it's in a kind of busy morning with finishing the retreat and packing and heading home, but it means so much to hear how it's been from your vantage. And I just really appreciate you sharing what it's been like for everybody listening.
Thank you so much, Mackenzie, to you and Shalane. This has been the most beautiful experience. And I know not from just myself, but from everyone. You guys have facilitated just a magical experience for all of us and catered to every single person's needs, maybe even in some ways unknowingly. So it's just been the most beautiful experience. I'm so sad to leave. I wish one of the girls at breakfast this morning said that this should be a month long, not a week long. It's so true. I'm so sad to leave, but just thank you again from the bottom of my heart for cultivating such a beautiful, safe, and supportive place for us this week. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for trusting us and for saying yes and joining the fun.
Thanks, Mackenzie.
Yes, thank you. I hope the flight home is safe and that you give your boys a squeeze. I bet you're excited to see them.
I'm so excited. So excited. No more FaceTimes. It's going to be real life hugs and kisses.
Good. Well, I hope you feel recharged, and I'm just a message away. You can always reach out at any time. I'm here for you, sis.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you got a lot out of it. Whether you were curious from the participant perspective or the facilitator perspective, there's something in it for you. Retreats are amazing, and I would absolutely love for you to come with me on my next one. I'm headed to Sedona in the fall of 2024 for Vortex, a retreat in Sedona. So So if you're interested, please head to the show notes, check out the link. And as a special thank you for being in the MYYT community, you can also use the code MYYT to receive 10% off. That's MYYT to receive 10% off of your next yoga retreat with Rechaka in Sedona this fall. I hope you come. Until then, keep listening. Come back every Wednesday for a new episode. Even take a screenshot of this current episode, post it to your stories, and tag me, Master Your Yoga Teaching, so I can reshare. Thanks so much. Keep shining your light and spreading yoga. Namaste blessed. Thanks for listening. If this is your first time, peruse our feed to see if there's something else that will serve you. We're so grateful that you're here and invite you to join our inner circle by subscribing to our newsletter. If this episode resonated with you, help us spread the word by sending it to a friend who needs to hear this message. Likes, follows, sends, shares, and reviews help us to continue delivering high-quality content to you for free each and every week. Don't forget to tag @Master Your Yoga Teaching so we can reshare. I am a certified yogi. However, this podcast is intended for information and entertainment only. If you are interested in mentorship or coaching with me, check out the website linked in the show notes to get more information. This content and other content produced by CLW Studios and affiliated partners is not therapy, and nothing in this content indicates a therapeutic relationship. Any opinions of guests on the podcast are their own and do not represent the opinions of MAKENZIE or CLW Studios. Learn more about MAKENZIE, her guests, and CLW Studios by following the links in the show notes. Keep shining, and we will see you next Wednesday for another dose of Master Your Yoga Teaching. Namaste blessed.